You want to safeguard your health, maximize your immune system, grow muscle, and lose fat faster? Prova Immune is not herbs and spices. It's not a proprietary blend. It's patented. It's a one-of-a-kind product. It's backed by science from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Prova is a protein antibody. It's different. It's real science and gets real results. Check us out at prova.com.
Hello, I'm Brian Dobson, owner of Metroflex Gym, the original home of hardcore training. This pandemic has nearly crippled the fitness industry we all so dearly love. With Metroflex gyms now opening up all across the country, it's our turn to hit back. If your health was ever a priority, now's the time. Now's the time to stop feeding your fear and your anxieties and feed your desire to get back on the saddle. For desire is the starting point of all achievement. For those who feel uncertain for what the future will hold, I'm here to assure you Metroflex Gym will continue to provide a platform for bodybuilding and strength conditioning athletes all across the nation. This optimism extends to potential owners looking to venture into owning and operating a Metroflex Gym. With interest rates at an all-time low, you can open up your own Metroflex Gym for the price of a new car. Our Metroflex Gyms are back in business. We're now waiting for you to do the same. Stay hardcore, y'all. God bless.
I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind, to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work and are backed by science. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body, and that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. We use only top-of-the-line formulations dosed for maximum results and the best flavoring systems available. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, and the reason I'm laughing is, if you can't hear it, I have my 2-year-old son outside yelling and screaming, trying to get into this room. Nonetheless, this is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, news, life, everything else going on in the world is all on the tables. Dave, we do have a lot going on right now in the bodybuilding world. Of course, we have 2 videos coming out. Big news yesterday. The Arnold Schwarzenegger statue in Columbus, Ohio, desecrated during the protests that are taking place for the last couple of weeks. And then another controversy that you also made a video on, that a lot of YouTubers have made video on, is the Jeff Cavalier Athlean X fake weight controversy. The most notable video made by Greg Doucette, who you responded to.
Yeah, you know, I hate getting involved in these YouTube wars, but you know, sometimes they're amusing, and so I get involved and I'll throw my 2 cents in. I probably, that'll be the last video I do on it, unless someone calls me out or something like that. But we don't really make our our dime, so to speak, on attacking other sites on a regular basis. Even though once in a while I'll go after people. We do a lot of original content, and that's really what I talked about in the video. I'm like, guys, can't make your own original content. I mean, most of Greg Doucette's content is original, so he doesn't really attack everyone. But a good portion of his YouTube following is him pointing out the absurdity of like some of the stuff that other people are doing, and that's I get his shtick and I understand what it is, and so we did respond to it. I was really upset, however, by the Arnold desecration, the statue. That Dr. Bob Goldman, who does the International Sports Hall of Fame and is into the whole longevity, life extension, business. He donated that statue many years ago, and it's really iconic for the Columbus, Ohio area. And I'm sure that's why they desecrated that statue. The sad part of it is that Arnold is really all about equal rights, and he's a guy who is so, believes in inclusiveness rather than exclusiveness. And I mean, it's typified in that Arnold Schwarzenegger fitness weekend that he holds every single year. I mean, it's just the athletes come together. It goes beyond race. It goes beyond political agendas. And everyone gets along and everyone's friends. And so to do it to Arnold, it was just a stupid choice by people trying to make a statement. And I think they only did it because that's an iconic symbol in Columbus, Ohio. They should have gone to the state capitol and done it if they wanted to. Not desecrate Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's actually on the side of equal rights. And I mean, he's an immigrant who came over to the U.S. He's living the American dream. I mean, so to me, it was in poor taste, and I really don't think it helped deliver any message. So I had to make my statement on that because it is part of the bodybuilding community. I try to stay away from the political agendas and what's going on in the politics and try to keep it to bodybuilding. But they brought bodybuilding into it by including Arnold, and I think that was a disgrace, really.
So if that video is not already up, it will be up today. That video, and then of course Dave weighing in on the Jeff Cavaliere controversy. Dave, you wanted to point out a product on your website, Euphoria. For those that may not be aware, if you want to tell the audience a little bit more about it.
Oh yeah, we just got it back in stock. A lot of people have been asking me because we have a lot of users of this. My friend Brian Cunningham makes it from Pure Life. It's kind of like a GHB alternative. It's obviously there's no GHB in here, but it uses GABA metabolites and tryptophan and serotonin, released to stimulate a kind of a euphoric feeling in the body. So a lot of people, they get home from a long day, rather than drinking a glass of wine, you can do some of this. It relaxes you. It keeps cortisol levels low. It will help. You can use this at night if you want to help relax before you go to sleep. A lot of people have problems with sleeping simply because they have stress from the day. It's not that they can't sleep or that their bodies aren't tired. They can't turn their bodies off. Now, a lot of times I have them use, I prefer using Somalize at night, our species nutrition product, because I think that while GABA and GABA metabolites will relax you, it's the melatonin that keeps you asleep. So that's why Somalize has got both in there. But this has got different GABA metabolites, and it just gives you definitely get a euphoric feeling. That's why it's called Euphoria, obviously. And this brand that Brian makes for my clientele at DavePalumbo.com is an extra strength version. It's got the X on it, and it's he makes it double strength for the bodybuilders because we're nuts and we like to use more than the average person, and we have high tolerances a lot of times to these things. So it is available once again at DavePalumbo.com. I just wanted to make a point of that.
Let's get to the questions. The first two questions, of course, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question, Dave, is there any usage of insulin that would aid in losing body fat?
No, well, insulin is a fat storage hormone. Excuse me. It is a fat storage hormone, but it's a storage hormone in general, meaning it drives nutrients into the cells. You want to burn fat, you want something that mobilizes, that takes stuff away from the cells, because that's going to help fat burning, okay? You want to mobilize fat out of the fat cells and use it for fuel. You want to get, stored glycogen out of the muscle cells so that it can be used and the cells can become depleted, and then we can, focus on burning stored body fat. So things that store things are not good for fat burning. So insulin notoriously, obviously, is a fat storage hormone. It's probably the only fat storage hormone in the body that we know of on a regular basis that actually causes the synthesis of new fat tissue because it drives glucose into the fat cells once the glycogen stores in the liver and the muscle are filled up. So once you fill up the glycogen stores, the excess via insulin gets stored as fat. So you want to minimize insulin. Insulin maintenance levels is important when you're dieting. That's why a ketogenic diet works so well, because when you're not eating carbohydrates, your insulin levels are super low. And when insulin is low, you burn fat better, okay? And when insulin levels are low, GH, or growth hormone levels in the body, naturally go higher. So that creates a hormonal environment that's conducive to fat loss. When insulin levels are high, GH levels are low, now you're hormonally priming your body to store calories, not necessarily mobilize.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, I drink 4 shakes a day. I eat 2 solid meals a day. What would you suggest as the 2 solid meals? Seems like a bit of a homework assignment.
Well, I mean, it depends what you like. I like eggs in the morning. So if I was eating a morning breakfast, I would do eggs. I would do whole eggs. If I'm thinking later in the day, I like salmon. That's my preference meal. So if I had to pick 2 food meals a day, I would do eggs and salmon. That's what I do right now. Those are my two main food meals during the day, and I have some protein snacks during the day. But some people are chicken people. I know guys that eat chicken 6 times a day. If you like chicken, then make chicken your 2 meals. It's really up to what you like. You can make the protein, the fat, and the carbs fit whatever your profile is. If you're eating high protein, moderate fat, say low carbs, then pick your protein, pick your fat source, and you're good to go. I mean, some guys like chicken and nuts, and they'll go with that as their protein and fat source, and maybe they like white rice. I don't know what he's trying to accomplish or what his macros are that he's shooting for, but if it was up to me, I just like whole eggs and I like salmon. Those are my 2 favorite meals. Or if I was in the middle of my bodybuilding days, I probably would have said maybe steak or something like that, and swordfish. I don't know. I eat a lot of that, but I always ate eggs. So even if I had to drink them, I would consume them, because I always felt that eggs was like the perfect protein source, in the sense that of the perfect food protein source. And when I was doing eggs, they didn't have omega-3 eggs back in the 90s. That came later. So I just really, really like eggs. When I would diet, sometimes I would eat them twice a day, but because I don't know, I just felt like I assimilated them well and I digested them well. Some people don't, but I did. It worked well with me. I don't really like too much dairy in my diet when I'm dieting, because I get I just feel like I get a little bloated from it. Obviously, if you're using a high quality whey isolate, like Isolyze, that's not going to bother your stomach as much. But I don't do cheeses. I don't do like cottage cheese. I don't do protein that's not pure whey isolate. I stay away from that. I'm not a huge consumer of chicken. I like chicken, but I don't like to eat it like 6 times a day. I almost, my jaw starts to hurt after a while from chewing it. So I can eat it like 2 times a day. Now remember, granted, when I was competing, I was eating like 6 food meals and like 4 shakes a day a lot of times during my contest dieting. So you have to figure out what you like, because you know what? That's going to make it easier for you to get the meals down. Now, if I was 4 weeks out from a show, my hunger was so crazy, you could have told me to eat dog shit for 4 meals a day and I would have eaten it and I would have licked up the plate. So the hungrier you get, the food doesn't become relevant. But early in the diet, when you're not really as hungry, you should try to pick things that you enjoy eating.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not following us, the handle is official_RxMuscle. First question from Wellness Bikini Queen. Is there a such thing as, quote, bad calf genetics?
Before I answer that, I want to thank the guys who sent me the East Coast Muscle USA shirt. I got it in red too. They sent it to me. So I got red and I got black. So thank you guys. It's not only a good logo, but they actually use good material. A lot of times people send me shirts and they're like that thick Gildan or Hanes sometimes material, and the shirts like you wore back in the 90s and the early 2000s. I don't like those shirts. If you're gonna wear a t-shirt, if I'm gonna wear a t-shirt nowadays, I want the thin, premium quality t-shirts because they're much more comfortable. Having said that, are there bad calf genetics? Absolutely. I would say I have bad calf genetics, although I got a compliment the other day. Someone told me they thought I had great calves. And I haven't even trained them, to be honest, because I don't have a calf machine in my house. But I have high calves. They're lean, okay, so they look muscular, and when people see them, they're impressive. But when I had huge legs, that was a weak body part for me because I couldn't get them to match my upper body. So I had to do a lot of innovative calf training to try to bring them up. And probably toward the end of my career, they were balanced with my legs. It took a long time to do that, though. Some guys, from the minute they start training, they got awesome calves. John Romano's got some unbelievable calves. And if you ask him to flex them, he has no problem flexing them. He's not a big guy either. His calves are really awesome. So I think there's good calf genetics. I think there's bad calf genetics. Can you overcome bad calf genetics? Absolutely. Will you ever have insanely superior calves? If you don't have good calf genetics, probably not. But you can certainly get them to look good if you train them right.
Let's go to Derek Apabon. Your thoughts on over-the-counter diuretics for peak week? If one couldn't get pharmaceutical grade, what would your recommendations be?
Yeah. You guys know I only believe in using like Diazide the night, the 24 hours before for diuretic use. The same thing with herbal diuretics. I have clients who can't get Diazides or don't want to use them, or they're natural bodybuilders, and I have them use Uva Ursi. Uva Ursi is an herb, and usually it comes in a formulation with other stuff. The other stuff is really not relevant. The Uva Ursi is, in my experience, is the most potent natural diuretic. So I use high amounts for one day. So I'll use like 800 milligrams with each meal. If you're a woman, 5 meals. If you're a man, 6 meals. The day before the show. And that's it. I might use one more 800 milligram dose with the post prejudging mode. So after prejudging, a lot of times I have guys eat a burger and fries and have like a Diet Coke, and I'll have them do another 800 milligrams of that. But other than that, that's it. And it seems to work really well. The problem with these Uva Ursi formulations is depending on which brand you buy, certain ones are purer than others. So sometimes you get a more potent version of, sometimes you get a little less potent version. But by and far, they work pretty well. The thing I like about Diazide is I know what the dosage is. I know how they work. They work fast. So, I can see if a person is responding, if they need more or not. And usually, they don't usually need more. But in my experience, 800 milligrams of the Uva Ursi at every meal the day before the show seems to work fine.
Let's go to Neil Zalewski. Your thoughts on Pete Grymkowski's 10,000 mg a day cycle. Do you think that's true? If you haven't heard of this, he claims you would take 3 bottles of orals a day along with 9 shot of 3 ml each, meaning 27 ml of injectables a day back in the golden era of the 70s.
I don't believe it. No one even used anything close to that back in the day. I mean, I'll get him on the show and I'll ask him. I mean, he might have. I don't believe it, though. I don't believe anyone did that. Even Greg Valentino was doing a 10cc bottle of test propionate a day in his arms. Think about how much volume that would be. Where would you inject all that stuff every day? I challenge someone to try it for a week. You wouldn't be able to do it. So I think it was probably over-exaggeration, especially in the 70s. Guys didn't use a lot of stuff. They used like a cc of Decker twice a week and a cc of like Primabone twice a week. That was a cycle, So I can't imagine anyone taking as much stuff as that. It just doesn't seem logical to me.
Deep one here, Dave. This is a topic that you and I have discussed quite a bit over the course of the last 2-3 weeks for obvious reasons. Obviously, the bodybuilding world losing Luke Sandow about a month ago. And we've seen a rash of depression in bodybuilding, and there are many reasons for that. But Vegan Natty CrossFitter wants to know, how does someone deal with suicidal thoughts in the midst of everything going on? No gyms, no social life, just dealing with depression.
I always tell people you got to find something that you enjoy doing other than bodybuilding. There's got to be something that you enjoy doing, whether playing, and I always say playing video games because a lot of guys play video games in body. Because I know guys that can immerse themselves in a video game, they'll be on there all day playing, and if that's what floats your boat, then do it. Do something you like. If you can develop a new skill, that's even better. And I've told a lot of people that were bored and depressed and stuck in the house, I said, you know what? You guys are always complaining that you can't keep the job that you want. You're not getting paid enough money at the job you're at. YouTube is a perfect vehicle to make money on the side. It could start with pocket change and it can build up to actually a real big salary. Speaking of Greg Doucette, in 1 year, the guy went from almost no subscribers on YouTube to having way more than I have here on RxMuscle. So he's making money. Start your own YouTube channel. Sit on there and just talk about what you want to talk about. People love to hear that stuff. Everything's about reality TV nowadays. Or find a niche. Maybe you collect, leaves from, weird trees outside. Whatever your interest or hobby is, make a YouTube channel about it and talk about it. Every day, do a video, or every other day, do a video. And put it up. I don't care if 5 people watch it. But you know what? All it takes is one video to kind of get hit in a viral way, and it gets passed around, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you have 10,000 subscribers on your channel, and now you're making money. So YouTube and social media really affords people the ability to start their own businesses right from their own house using their own creativity. If you're that depressed that you can't even get creative about what you really love, bodybuilding, and try to, make something more of it, then you know what, maybe you need to go, and there's nothing wrong with this, you might need to seek counseling and talk to someone professionally. You might even need antidepressants. I know a lot of people that those helped tremendously. I mean, it changed their life. So don't think that it's hopeless, because there's a lot of people in the same exact boat. Okay? The smart people find ways around it. If your depression is due to your circumstances, then you got to change your circumstances. If your depression might be a chemical imbalance and your circumstances are not really what's causing it, then you might need to get on antidepressants. And there's nothing wrong with that, because if it fixes the problem, then great. Then now you're in a better state, in a better place of being, and you can go on with your life. So you have to figure out what's causing your depression, first of all. If it's circumstantial, you change the circumstances. If it's not and it's chemical, then you need to chemically fix the problem, and that's what medication is for.
Well, Dave, I'm gonna jump in, because I did want to add one thing to this, because they specifically mentioned training, and I think that is one thing that amongst the bodybuilding community, amongst gym goers in general, that seems to be one of the things that, again, specifically comes up, right? And let's just talk about bodybuilders, right? And again, I'm not going into specifics,
right,
but it's like any professional athlete. Once they retire, they miss the thrill, they miss the action, right? And you see them going into learning how to fly a plane, learning how to ride a motorcycle. Right. Some go the way of gambling because they need the rush, the thrill, the action.
Right.
I look at it from the perspective of, you have people that go to the gym, they're used to going to the gym. Why do they go to the gym? Because they want that release. They want that satisfaction of, setting a new PR, hitting some big weights.
Yeah.
What do you say to that crowd that, again, is sitting there listening to you, saying that you're a former bodybuilder, who, again, why did you go to the gym, right? So there are those who are sitting there, they can't achieve that same satisfaction to that. You say what?
Here's the answer. Whether I was a top-level let's say I was competing at the highest level of my career now, for sure I would find a gym to train at, right? Because someone's going to say, oh, Dave, come to my house and train, right? Because everyone knows me. But when I first started, okay, no one really knew me. I guarantee you, I was so single-mindedly driven to be the best bodybuilder, to build the physique that I fantasized about in my head, that I would have found a gym. I would have found a way to train by leveraging maybe someone who I trained in their house, to finding someone who had a home gym, to finding a gym owner who let me come in. And I would have found a way to get it done. If training is that important to me, I guarantee you I would have been training at a gym, whether it be at someone's home gym or a commercial gym that I got the key to. In some capacity, I would have found a way to do it, because I believe that our thoughts create our reality, and I know I would have created exactly what I needed and wanted. So if you're sitting home twiddling your thumbs saying, oh, poor me because I have no gym and the gyms are closed, you know what? You're not trying hard enough. I know a lot of my clients have found ways to do it, or they went online and they looked for it and they built their own gyms. It's been 2.5 months we've been out. There's plenty of people that I know that have amassed dumbbells and plates and pieces of machinery. Stores are open. You can order stuff. You know what? You might have to spend a few bucks for it, but you know what? You could amass enough equipment to allow yourself to train, to stimulate the muscle, to hold what you have until the gym's open. Now all the gyms are opening up, so it's almost a moot point at that point. But you know what? There could be another wave of this stuff, 6 months from now. So my advice to you is, if you love training that much and it's that therapeutic to you, you better set up a little mini home gym for yourself somewhere in your house, your apartment, whatever, your garage, so that if this ever happens again, you have backup. It's like I have a generator on my house and on this building that we're in right here. If the electricity goes out because of a hurricane or whatever the case may be, I'm still up and operating because that's very important to me. Because I got to operate. I got to make videos. I got to do stuff. I got work. I got to send orders in for Species Nutrition. My wife's got to process all the orders for all the websites. We got to work. So I spent the money on a generator so that I can do that. You guys, if it's that important, save up your allowance and buy yourself some gym equipment.
Let's go to Vigar S91. Your opinion on bodybuilders starting their own supplement companies. Is there a saturation within the market, or do you think it's healthy for the industry?
I'll give you a better analogy. I'm going to give you a snake analogy. I know people don't like this, but it's relevant. Ball pythons, okay, were just a regular, regular looking python snake for many years. And then what happened is someone found an albino one in the wild, and they brought it in. And then someone found a pied one, which was like a white interspersed with regular pattern, and people went nuts, and they had to have it. And so people started breeding these things and charging exorbitant amounts of money for this. If you wanted a pied, you had to pay 25 grand. But it sounds crazy, but people would buy one and then they would breed it and they would sell the babies for 10 grand a piece. And then people would buy those and breed them and sell them for 5 grand and 2 grand. And it was like a pyramid scheme. And then at some point people said, well, the market is saturated. It's not worth it to go into the ball python market, okay? But the truth was that there was still money to be made. It wasn't as much, but there still was money to be made, okay? And if you love what you're doing, it's not work anyway. So even though pieds may only sell for $400 or $500 a piece now, if you make 10 of them, you just made $5,000 for yourself. So you can't think like that. You have to think, if I enjoy doing supplements, if I want to start my own supplement company and I'm going to put a lot of effort into it, and I'm not just doing it to make money, but I'm doing it because I truly love it, I will at some point make money from it. So I don't think it's only oversaturated for people who think they're going to make millions and millions of dollars. Because those people don't have the passion. They go in, they realize it's too hard, they can't make money, they can't compete with these other companies, they don't have the marketing savvy because they don't have a name for themselves, or they don't want to do the work, and they fail and they go out of business. So for those people, yeah, you shouldn't go into the business. If you're willing to work and this is something you want to do and you love to do and you love to talk supplements and you have a following and you're going to work on it every single day, then you could absolutely make money in it, okay? But it's a market that will eat you alive if you're really not in it because you love doing it.
Let's go to Shawnee Boy Fit. Your thoughts on the post-workout nutrition, post-nutrition workout. Post-workout window for nutrition. Best to just eat straight, or is that a myth now? I usually eat about an hour after training.
I would try to consume food or something on a shake right after you train. Now let me differentiate. When you're trying to grow and put muscle on in an off-season scenario, the window of repair of the muscle tissue, okay, and getting nutrition into your body quickly is paramount because we want to turn on the protein machinery in the body, and that's called mTOR. If we can stimulate mTOR, okay, in your cells, and the best way to do that is by taking in rapidly absorbed sources of protein that are high in the branched chain amino acids, but that have a component of all the amino acids in them as well. So like a whey protein isolate is ideal post-workout because it's easily digested, very rapidly absorbed, and once it gets into the cells, because there's a lot of leucine in there, it stimulates mTOR, turns it on, the protein machinery starts, all those other amino acids that are found in the whey protein now start to help repair muscle, and things are underway, okay? Now, when you're dieting for a competition or trying to lose body fat, okay, the window of opportunity is not quite as important because we're not worried about adding new muscle tissue, okay? Because if we try to gain muscle while we're dieting, we accomplish nothing usually. So if it takes an extra 15, 20 minutes to get things going and the repair process going, you're not gonna lose muscle. You might not gain as much muscle, but you're not gonna gain muscle anyway when you're dieting because you're not eating an overabundance of nutrition. Your energy that you're consuming is lower than what your body requires, and that's why you're going into stored body fat and burning the fat as fuel. So whenever you're when you're in a lack of nutrition, or I shouldn't say nutrition, when you're at a lack of nutrients, okay, you'll burn fat adequately, and if your protein's high enough, you won't lose muscle, but you're not really going to gain muscle. So the strategies are different. So like when I was dieting for competition, after my workout, I might go have a chicken and rice meal, or chicken and, you know, cashew nuts and rice, or whatever was on the agenda for myself. I wasn't worried about, oh, I got to down a whey isolate and high molecular weight carbohydrate shake, because it didn't matter, okay? When I'm trying to grow, that mattered. The second I got out of the gym, I drank my shake, and then I could relax a little bit. An hour and a half later, 90 minutes later, I would go and have a meal. So different strategy, different approach.
Time for 2 to 3 more questions. Let's go to Carlos Domar. Would you recommend products that improve the absorption of carbs like chromium, picolinate? What do you think about using carb blockers in a heavy cheat meal? So the first one, products that help the overall absorption of carbs.
Right. Well, first of all, chromium doesn't help absorb carbohydrates unless you're deficient in it. Insulin requires chromium as a cofactor to absorb glucose. So we always think that insulin drives glucose into the cells. It does, but if there's not enough chromium present, it can't do it. And if that happens, what happens is the body doesn't know there's not enough chromium. It thinks there's not enough insulin present, so it over-releases insulin. And a lot of times that can make you fat. So you want to make sure you have enough chromium. That's why I'm always preaching vitamins, minerals, trace metals are so important. That's why a product like V-Mineralized, that's a high-dose, high absorbability product, is so important, because you can't undergo all the chemical reactions that are necessary for building and repairing muscle if you don't have enough vitamin, mineral, and trace metals in your body, because they're all cofactors, chromium being one of them. So if you take extra chromium and you're not chromium deficient, it's not gonna do anything. But you should be taking it in the scope of a good multivitamin, multimineral that's highly dosed with chelated minerals. Chelated chromium being much more absorbable, obviously, than most forms of chromium you see in nutritional products. So that's going to help ensure that you adequately absorb your calories and don't over-release insulin. But it's not going to facilitate it. In other words, if I take extra chromium, it's not going to push nutrients into my muscle cells. That's not how it works. Now, what was the other part of the question, Sid?
About using, I believe it was carb blockers.
Oh, carb blockers. Yeah. Now, if you take a carb blocker while you're doing your cheat meal, thinking, well, I'm eating all this extra food, I'll just take a carb blocker. Well, if you're blocking the carbs from being absorbed, it's not really a cheat meal. So invariably, when people do that, I know people that take these things that they're almost like laxatives. They like prevent you from absorbing fat, and then the fat drips out of your butt. It just goes right through you. If you're doing that, you're really not getting the effects of the cheat meal. And so what's going to happen is your body's going to still be hungry, and you're going to continue cheating after that, because you're not becoming satiated by the food that you're consuming, because you're not absorbing it all. Plus, a lot of these carb blockers and fat blockers block the absorption of vitamins, water-soluble and fat-soluble vitamins. And that can make you nutritionally deficient. So I wouldn't get involved. I don't believe for bodybuilding purposes any of these blocking agents to absorption are good for bodybuilders, because we don't know exactly what else they block in addition to what they claim to block. So a cheat meal is a cheat meal. You're eating an extra abundance of calories that are a little sloppier than normally to stimulate your metabolic rate. We don't want to block that effect from occurring. If you can't control how much you're eating and you're overeating at your cheat meal, that's a different story. Now you might have to design your cheat meal and say, okay, instead of me eating everything in sight, I'm just going to eat this, this, and this, and that's it. I'm cutting off after that. And that's a smart way to be. Some people just need that structure.
Time for a couple of more. Enzo Sedio, good friend of the show. Dave, for a classic physique competitor that wants to maintain a small waist but put on maximal muscle tissue in the off-season, would you recommend changing the eating approach? Smaller meals, more shakes, etc. Essentially, how to find the balance between growing everything except your waist.
Unfortunately, waist genetics are very, very, are dictated by your, genetic parentage. I know guys like Flex Wheeler and that had Tony Freeman. That these guys have tiny waists. They train, they eat a lot of food, and their waist is still small. So I think that the mistake that some people make is that they don't take a fiber supplement. We've talked about this before. So a lot of times, even though you're not eating a lot of food, it's backing up in your gut. And your gut's getting more and more distended. And I think early in my career, I ate so much food, I thought I was fine because I was pooping a lot, but I really wasn't getting it all out, all the waste out, because I was eating so much food that I was retaining a lot of fecal matter in there because I wasn't consuming enough fiber, because I was so obsessed with getting enough protein in my diet that I was devoid of fiber. Once I started introducing a fiber supplement, and this is before I even produced my own, I noticed that my stomach was being emptied much better. It was flatter. I was able to pull it in better. And I realized that I was really toxifying myself over the last 5 or 6 years by not using fiber in my diet, because I knew nothing about it. No one ever talked about it. No one said anything about it. I was really one of the first few people to actually start bringing it to the light that bodybuilders should use fiber. It was in the health industry, but it wasn't in the bodybuilding industry. And then obviously when I started Species Nutrition, one of my first products, a couple products, was Fiberlyze, because I realized how important it was, and I wanted to produce a top quality fiber supplement that used the best ingredients so the bodybuilders can eat the amount of food they needed to eat. They didn't have to worry about it because they were constantly moving the waste through their body. It wasn't accumulating and causing that distension in the abdominal area.
Last question, good one to finish off here from the Coder Bro. Where does Jay Cutler sit in your mind among the all-time greatest?
Top 10 for sure. Top 10, and maybe even higher. I'm just saying top 10 off the top of my head. Certainly, size-wise, he's got to be one of the biggest. He might not have had the best structure, but you got to remember, even though Jay didn't have a tiny waist, his shoulder width was so incredibly wide, it was almost unbelievable when you think about it, that he actually had a really good taper, because it's an illusion, And let's face it, Ronnie Coleman is, I don't think anyone would argue, is probably the greatest Mr. Olympia of all time. Maybe no one will ever eclipse what he accomplished. And Jay arguably beat him a couple times on stage, even when Ronnie was at his best, 0-1. There was a couple of close calls Ronnie had with Jay. So Jay, was challenging, one of the best Mr. Olympias of all time. I mean, if Ronnie wasn't around, how many times would Jay have won the Olympia? He might have won 10 times. So he's a lot better than people give him credit for. I don't know, once again, I don't know where he ranks. He might be top 5 of all time, in terms of size, conditioning, stage presence, and just general mass and freakiness. Jay's got to be right up there, Even though guys like Phil Heath are a little more cartoonish, and Lee Haney had more classic lines, Jay was, when we think bodybuilding, we think freak, and he had a good charismatic look, and he was a good spokesman for the sport. So I think you got to rank him up there in that top. He's definitely top 10. Thinking about it now, he's probably top 5.
Let's see what you think. Comment below. In your pantheon of the greatest bodybuilders of all time, where does Jay Cutler fit in? If we're going to assume that Coleman and Haney are 1 and 2, you want to throw some other names in there, Schwarzenegger, Yates, where does Jay Cutler rank? Also, if you're not already following us on Instagram, we're starting to do this a lot more now. We're starting to pose questions, trying to really see where the audience falls. Like earlier this week, we posted a question about, if you had to name one person that you, living or past, bodybuilder that you would want to train with, who would it be? That thread is past 1,200 comments right now. So again, we're trying to strike a chord here, trying to get some real conversation, real bodybuilding conversation going on our social media. But for now, comment below in the all-time greats, where does Jay Cutler rank? I
have one more thing also I wanted to say. Yeah. Another thing that I think is interesting when we think about, topics to talk about. Someone said that they wanted us to do an iron debate, and I don't know if it would be even iron debate, but at least a discussion about what it takes to be a great gym owner, and get some bodybuilders who've had their own gyms, maybe Kevin Levrone. He comes to mind. Dorian Yates had his own gym. And see what it takes to be a great gym owner. Because you can be a great bodybuilder doesn't mean you're going to be a good gym owner. I know bodybuilders that were great bodybuilders but did terrible with their gyms because they weren't there enough. But what does it take to be a great gym owner? And let's look at some of the people who were very successful. Maybe some of the people who were successful but didn't enjoy it and got out of it, and find out what it takes to be a great gym owner. If you guys like that topic, let me know, and we'll make it happen in the next week or so.
And on that note, again, we always put it out there. If there's a topic of debate that you want to see, or If there are bodybuilders that you want to see on Iron Debate live with any of our formats, let us know. This is what we do. That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Again, the videos that Dave recorded earlier today, the response video to the Jeff Cavalier fake weight controversy, and then, of course, his response video to the Arnold statue desecration. That's either up right now or it's going to be up very shortly on the YouTube channel. For Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.